We need mentors, we need coaches. Even when we've been in this business, there are two deviant behaviors that are from people that you know and people that you don't know. The investment looked great. It checked all the boxes, great rate of return, but it was that too good to be true. My takeaway from this whole thing as I went further on down the rabbit hole is always listen to your gut. It looked good on paper. So I think spending some time and money, I'd rather have spent several $1,000s to investigate than part of my retirement lost. Don't follow the charm.
Good day, everyone. This is Dr. David Phelps of the Freedom Founders Mastermind Community and Dentist Freedom Blueprint Podcast. Today, longtime friend, a colleague, and somebody who I totally respect in the space, not just of real estate, but of a great business person and entrepreneur. And I think that's a person we all want to learn from, and we are going to learn some lessons today. I've got Darlene Root with me. Darlene, how are you?
I am outstanding, David. Thank you so much. It's honestly an honor and a privilege to be on your podcast. I just got done listening to the second version or second podcast episode of Rob Swanson, and he had some really great things. So my presentation is going to be kind of on the heels of what he was talking about as it relates to risk factor and what should we be looking out for as we're heading into an interesting economy and chasing after that yield. So
no, it's great. It's great. It'll be some great lessons, and we all need to keep that on the forefront. So let me give people a little bit of your background, Darlene, so they know who they're listening to today. Darlene Root is a real estate investor, tax-advantaged, tax-free investment specialist, educator and coach, inspired to teach others to, I love this, to take responsibility for their own wealth creation. And how many people abdicate that to whomever, money managers, right?
Yeah.
Darlene's approach to wealth creation also includes wealth preservation, using techniques that provide anonymity and asset protection using creative entity structuring.
Yes.
With over 40 years of real estate experience, Darlene has been a real estate agent, broker, real estate investor, doing fix and flips, wholesale contracts, owner finance, and rentals. Today, she is the owner of Mutual Investment Holdings, a real estate investment firm specializing in buying and selling institutional and owner financed promissory notes secured by residential real estate. I love that arena. Darlene credits her real estate investing to, I love this too, her savvy to a great mentor. How can we live our lives without those who have gone before us and can pass on the wisdom, experiences, and the scar tissue that they gain along the way, right? Yeah. So important. So this mentor taught you non-traditional ways, love non-traditional, to invest. Having had a passion for tax-free wealth creation and entity structuring led Darlene to co-create a course called the Master Trust System. She has a passion for empowering others to take self-responsibility and create financial freedom, which has placed her on the national stage as a sought-after speaker and guest on not just various podcasts, but podcasts like this one. And I'm so glad to have you here today, Darlene. It's a real pleasure.
Wow, I had to look around the room to see who you were talking about. That's quite a resume.
Hey, well, listen, I know it's true because I've known you for so many years, and we've been around the block ourselves and with a lot of other people, and I know the merits of somebody who doesn't just teach from a theoretical standpoint, read some books, went to a couple courses, somebody who has lived it, breathed it. As I said earlier, taking the scar tissue for the stuff that we have to learn. There's some things we just have to learn as we go through, and with curiosity comes the expansion of our knowledge and experience and what we get to do and then share with other people, which is so much of what you do today.
Yeah. Fiscal responsibility is huge, and it's going to become even huger. I don't even know if huger is a word, but it is today. And I know that what you do over at Freedom Founders is nothing short of spectacular, creating the blueprint for success for people that you would think that would automatically have that dialed in. And we know what we know, but we don't know what they don't know, right? So everybody kind of goes, well, I just assume everyone knows what I do. It's because it's so ingrained and I'm entrenched in it all the time. Incidentally, my mentor, when I met him, he was already in his mid 70s, and he was a no pull in punches kind of guy, and he got right in the trenches, and he did some pretty creative stuff, and I co-created that course with him. He has since passed.
So who are we talking about?
His name is Jerry Ballard, And Jerry came to me through a real estate mentoring, course, and he was my coach. And so we hit it off, not so famously. We kind of rubbed each other the wrong way, but I learned to love and respect the man, and kind of went on a speaking platform with him and co-created and co-taught the course. And when he died, I said, the day Jerry died, a library burnt down, because he had so much knowledge. So, we are the last 5 people that we've hung out with. And I was thinking about that this morning. And as I live here in Naples now, I see a lot of people hanging out with their dogs a lot. So if that's the last 5 persons, entities they're hanging out with, some of the people here are in trouble. But saying all that, you have, you definitely have a great mastermind. You and I met at a mastermind. We need mentors. We need coaches. Even when we've been in this business, I think you and I have been in the business the same length of time.
About the same time, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're still learning. And I've learned a lot in the last couple of years, skinned my knee and learned a whole bit. Matter of fact, I came up with when Rob talked about the risk factors, there's one that he left out, and that's called the deviant behavior factor. And that is one of the reasons I do a lot of entity structuring, because you don't know. It's sometimes it's the people you do know. I mean, we know some of the deviant behavior is our government, it's kissing cousin, the IRS and the feds. And those are things that we really can't control, the inflation and that sort of thing. But we certainly can do things to mitigate how that's going to affect us in the long term. There are 2 deviant behaviors that are from people that you know and people that you don't know. And for those people who have rental real estate and those types of investments, entity structuring for anonymity is the first part of asset protection. And hopefully I'll be able to come back on and talk in more detail about that. But what I'm going to share today is it's the people that you do know. And we have a lot of people who are, I'm going to use the word charlatan, and that might be disrespectful to some of the people that were involved in this transaction. But
let's this is great. This is where I want to go. Let's start at the top.
Sure.
So I'm going to go back to what you said early is that we have to be responsible for our own financial future. And to your point, many highly educated people that earn terrific incomes doing what they do, the craft of trade technician, tend to advocate that because they're told it's too complex. Stay in your lane, do what you do, make the money, but hand it over here. We'll take care of it over here where here is, and we'll have it ready for you when you're ready to retire.
Right.
Just in short, and you alluded to it a little bit, the external risk factors that or deviant behaviors that we cannot control, the economy, politics, IRS, inflation factors, we can't control those. So just in short, from your standpoint, 40 years of doing this, looking ahead, navigating the turbulent waters, why is it more important for people today to get a grip on their financial future, Darlene?
Yeah, so more important today than ever. And you and I have been through many corrections. We'll just soft sell that and call them corrections in the market. Yeah. This correction is going to be a lot different. There are a couple of factors that will come into play. I can be outspoken, I think, about our current administration and the fact that they're not here to help us in any way, shape, or form. And it doesn't matter what side of the political aisle that you sit on, it is not going to bode well for a lot of what we call now middle to lower class economic, socioeconomic, because there's going to be the haves and the have-nots. And that's been coming down the pipe for some time. The inflation that is happening is a little bit different than it was in the 1970s when we experienced, the gas crunch and the crisis and all of that. This has a different feel about it in that it's more manipulated now. We've printed our way. We realize the printing press has to stop. We can't print yourself out of debt. Now we're going to have to raise the interest rates. But at the same time, we have a housing shortage. And so when the people are overpaying, and you know that, it's crazy, especially here in Florida. I think every 2 minutes, 1,000 people move in, or some crazy statistic. That might not be correct. But when inflation goes up, generally, and this is a broad brush statement, David, prices start to come down. And I don't think we're really going to see that. I think our purchasing power.
You mean when interest rates go up? You said inflation, but you meant
I'm sorry, when interest rates go up,
Yeah.
corrected. When interest rates go up, prices notoriously go down. And there's a lot of factors involved in that. But I don't believe it's going to happen. We are seeing here, there's a buzz in the Naples area about the need to have rent control, because the rents have gone up in some areas 30%. What is that going to do when the interest rates go up? And what is that going to do when inflation goes up? Those rates are still going to, prices are still going to increase. So it's going to be a little bit different this time. And that deviant behavior is going to come out in droves, because there's going to be a promise of great return and yield. And you just have to be careful, have to watch out for your cover your assets.
One of the things both of us have learned to do through our years is to collaborate with other people.
Yeah.
The synergy of the right people and putting together, whether it's joint ventures or other types of, I don't like the word partnership, but other structuring that you can combine the best of the best and create a bigger pie. And that can work well, but there can be the other side of it too, which we're going to talk about today. You also mentioned this chase for yield. We've got cheap money, low interest rates, which means and trillions of dollars of fiat stimulus in the marketplace. What can go wrong there? So all this money is trying to find a home, creates the inequality in the wealthy. The elitists do very well. Those that are middle class and lower, to your point, they have no place on that food chain. It's not fair at all. It's the world we live in. It's manipulated economics for those in power who want to keep it. So those of us who want to help more people and sustain our own selves, we have to get in on that chain somewhere, and we do it by access points, by knowing other people, access to opportunities where the government has screwed things up, where we come in as entrepreneurs and fix them, right? We're the fix-up people to the extent they'll let us, and they try to regulate us and to death and try to put us out of business. But that being said, we have to collaborate at some point. We find good people to invest with or through. And that's a little bit of our subject today, because we've both done that over the years. It can be great until the day it's not. so let's go back to your deviant behaviors.
Sure.
So pick it up from there, and let's talk about the opportunity that came across your desk, so to speak, and what happened there.
Sure. So the opportunity that came across was actually from a real estate investors association. So that was one checkpoint. So we automatically assume, because it's coming through that venue or that vehicle, that it's going to be a safe investment. The other access point, I guess you could say, was that the box that was checked is I knew the individual, got to vet that individual for about a year, knew his business model, or so I thought, felt comfortable with his investing style. He purported at the time that he was a builder developer, and was part of rallying around let me back up. When I first met this individual, he came to me to do the entity structuring for a large development that he was going to be putting together. And so initially I was not going to be an investor at all. I was there as an advisory on how to set up the entities for anonymity and asset protection. And as I listened to the presentation, along with my fellow real estate investors, whom I knew through this association, the investment looked great, right? It checked all the boxes, great rate of return. The time for the return was in less than 2 years. It was, a motor coach resort. So we didn't have to erect a lot of buildings. It was pretty much motor coach resort travel is at an all-time high, and was so back in 2017 when the opportunity was mentioned. But it was that too good to be true. And I think my takeaway from this whole thing, as I've went further on down the rabbit hole, is always listen to your gut, because my gut knew, although I thought I knew this person and other people, that sphere of influence is getting involved, and I'm assuming that they felt comfortable. There was always that gnawing part of me, David, that said, this is too good to be true. The more than double digit returns in less than 18 months just seemed to be, okay, it's possible. It's a vacant piece of property, putting roads in, infrastructure, and you're going to put up a clubhouse. How hard could that be? But what we didn't do, and this is critical, is we all look great on social media, right? On Facebook, we're all having a great time. Nobody has a bad day. LinkedIn, the resumes are always, top notch. No one really thought to vet this individual on a granular level from his online resume as to, really, were you involved in these transactions, these other developments? And after it was all said and done, he wordsmithed and spun it like crazy. And most of the developments, a couple of them, I can't find that they even exist. And the others, he knew the correct names to drop. I did this resort development and I did it with this guy. And of course, sure, you research it online, and absolutely, he did. And it wasn't until we got further into down the road, when he wasn't producing a result, is when we realized that this is, he's not who he said he is. And now it's time to unravel this thing. And it was only because of the way I set up the entity structuring, we were able to finally, after 3 years being into this thing, able to get the pseudo developer, to deed the property back over to the investors, which is basically a worthless piece of paper right now, because it would cost more than the property is worth to develop it.
Yeah. So this is really important, because you're right. There's a social presence that people can have today because of social media.
Sure.
All kinds of people can say all kinds of things. Look the look, walk the talk, so to speak. Associations. You mentioned the investor association. So we tend to think that this association is creating a barrier to entry, and only good people are going to be there. And people with charisma are really well suited to, unfortunately, not all, but unfortunately, they have the greatest ability to pull one over on the eyes. And again, I would include myself there. It's easy to want to get involved with someone who carries a flag and says, I've done all this and got this great opportunity. And who doesn't want to get in on that? Especially when you think like it's a special opportunity and not everybody's going to hear about this. And hey, I could be one of those few who gets on this. It's because of my relationships, because I'm here, and this is good stuff. You talked about no one really did the granular vetting. So let's talk about that. What would that look like? I mean, going back now, what would you or somebody else do to do this more granular vetting, other than just seeing some resume that was wordsmithed? And what would you make some more definitive calls? Just give me the pieces you would do to
Sure.
go deeper.
Yeah, I think the deeper dive, David, would be to definitely skip trace, although I did skip trace the individual using some of the software you're probably familiar with. And there weren't any glaring obvious things about it. Did some entity searching for the person and did show that he had some entities. Further on down, and I don't know why I didn't do this first, but he claimed to have been a well-known builder, and when in fact his builder's license had been revoked. Now, you don't have to have a developer's license. There isn't a credential called developer's license, but I figured, he must have been sanctioned, or there was something amiss there. And the charisma part, when you ask him, here's why, and it was a big old story, I think I probably would have taken it further, and would in the future, to find out from another source, why was his builder's license revoked? What went awry there? The other thing is I would have taken what he had put on his resume and verified. He did a great job of wordsmithing things that gave you the illusion, that's case in point, that he attended the college in the state of Michigan, attended the business master's program. Well, come to find out, he didn't get a degree. As a matter of fact, he took a weekend course on business, right? So you can, again, putting it on LinkedIn, putting it on Facebook. The other one was ministry for Church of God or Church of Christ. Well, it just so happened that that ministerial school had closed down long before he said he got his certification. What he did is he got a minister's license on, or minister thing, a weekend minister thing online. So was he telling the truth? Was he lying? He was spinning it in such a way. He was such a great spin doctor. The other things were, he claimed that he had developed part of a very well-known resort in Michigan, a ski resort. And when in fact, he did purchase 2 sites to build 2 condos, he didn't help develop the resort. So did he develop part of this resort? I think that's definitely stretching it. The only thing he did have on there, because it was super easy to verify, was a Homerama, which is a Michigan thing for builders. They all build a home in this kind of the same subdivision, and then you vote on them. And I think it's by a jury of their peers. I'm not sure how the voting goes. The other thing is the other developments he claimed that he was part of. Like I said, a couple of them didn't even pay. We couldn't find them. We couldn't even find the 2 developments at all. Doing Google search and calling around, it just wasn't there, but it looked good on paper, right? It all looked good on paper. So I think spending some time and money, sorry, you're going to spend your hard-earned money. I'd rather have spent several $1,000s to investigate than part of my retirement lost due to not doing that. So don't follow the charm. Don't buy the lie.
If you enjoyed watching or learning from this video, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more content. If you have a question about any of my content or this specific video, just please leave a comment down below. And as always, stay focused on your freedom. I'll see you next time.